Hello, and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It is the daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
They call me Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Chris Radtke from the Exagulf of Tarkin.
Oh, welcome back, Radtke.
Hey! I came back for this.
Yeah. Well, we
somehow
as we'll find
Radtke
out
has
momentarily.
returned.
Somehow Radtke has returned. This is, oh, God almighty. So let's start this off. You guys are like, hey, you want to come on? And I'm like, you guys, is it that bad? And they're like, yes, please, come on. So I'm watching these minutes. I have no recollection what comes before or after these 5 minutes. I've seen this movie once. It's the only Star Wars thing outside of like individual episodes of TV shows that I've only seen once. And I've like, and it really is crazy how just I'm like, so this is going to be a good time for all your listeners, your new listeners and longtime listeners. Let's journey into this 5 minute long short film that I recently watched.
It's a standalone.
Yes.
Well, we're talking about minute 6. We're starting the movie with minute 6. Minute 6 starts with some weird old zombie quoting Revenge of the Sith. And it ends with the final order, the same guy saying, the final order will soon be ready. It will be blank. And now, as you may remember from previous seasons, if we have a cliffhanger like that, we're going to, everybody, it's a match game moment. Everybody, we're going to write down our answers tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. Chris, if you can come back tomorrow, we are going to write down our answers and see if we have a match.
Okay.
So the final order will soon be ready. It will be blank.
Blank.
And so this, I'm well, content-wise, this is a Kismet. We wanted to make sure that we had you here for this, right? Because this is the return of the Blue Raspberry.
It seriously
it's
is.
Exactly. And I want to start out. So last week we brought this up. I love this movie. And
yeah, you've been saying, and every time I'm like what the like it's been now. It's been years. I'm like, oh, you're like, I love this movie, and I'm like, bull. Oh, sorry. And you're like,
that's right.
And you're like, no, really. And then when I press you on it, you're like, save it. So here we are, sir.
Here we are, face to face.
Yeah.
A couple of silver spoons talking about the rise of Skywalker, because it hits a lot of just fun points for me. I was talking to somebody about Andor recently, and one of the things I didn't like about Andor was it doesn't have the kind of magic, fun adventure. It's kind of deeper, more serious, which is what a lot of people do like about it. But this person was saying, well, it doesn't have enough kind of fun adventure. And this movie is like all fun adventure with no kind of like it doesn't stop to take a breath ever, which is what I understand could be obviously a sticking point for some people. But I just went and just had fun start to finish both times I saw it in the theater and any time I've seen it since then. And this minute in particular, I love it because this is when one of the complaints that people have. Well, I'll just keep ticking off.
Yeah, keep going. My silence is me listening. I'm gonna put my mic on mute and sip my coffee. Continue.
You're just gonna sit there and make rude gestures at me while I talk about how much I love this movie. But I should ask for a list of grievances. What people don't like about this movie, because we'll check them off as we go along. But this right here, I mentioned it I think last week. I was so relieved when it was just we found out. Beforehand that Palpatine was back in this movie. And I was so relieved when it starts out and he's just there and he's back. And it's not like, oh, it's great. We don't have to spend the whole movie figuring out how he got back, because I was not looking forward to that. I didn't want this to be a whole unraveling the story of how, we don't need that. And here, people have said they don't explain how he came back. They don't. And here he just says it right here. It's like, here we have the character who in a previous movie said, hey, you know how sometimes you can use the Force to not die? And then here he shows up and he's like, hey, remember how I said you could use the Force to not die? Eh? And everybody's like, well, what the hell? They didn't even mention, like, they didn't talk about how he comes back. And like, here, he said it, 4 movies ago or whatever it was. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 or 5 movies ago. He said, hey, dark side, you can kind of sometimes, use the Force to not die. I could teach you that. And he knows it. And then here he is, he's back. And he's saying like, hey, remember that thing I was saying about the Force? Yeah.
So now we believe the villain.
Well, we believe him because he's here. Now I can't tell if Radtke is sneezing or if he's yelling at me or what, but his mic is sneezing.
Those are sneezes that I was debating. Do I turn my mic back on to sneeze or not? And
I sneeze at thee.
I sneeze at thee. That was a little treat for your video-only viewers.
Yeah, but it's like, that's all the explanation I need. Great. I was so, like, this moment in particular relieved, set me up for the rest of the movie. I was like, okay, good. Like, it was not, like, it's like, Wolverine, like, in the comics. If you're like, oh, Wolverine, like, if it looked like Wolverine died, then Wolverine just showed up. Everybody wouldn't, you wouldn't have to be like, oh, why is Wolverine back? I thought he was dead. Like, he has a healing factor. That's why he's back. We know that. It's established in his character. Whereas, like, Palpatine is established in his character. He said, hey, you can, if you study the Force like me, you can use it to, like, not die.
Well, that sounds like you've had several years to practice and rehearse that in the mirror.
No.
Sure.
In the theater, I said that.
In the theater.
Out loud. I stood up and I was like, look, that's what we were talking about.
That all makes sense, but execution is everything. And the execution's bad. Like, I agree with you. Like, all of those things. Like, yes, it's awesome and it's clever, and I would have accepted it if it just wasn't, delivered in the most ham-fisted, lackluster, fan film, spoiled brat of a director kind of way. Like, there's so many, and it's all inside baseball stuff. Like, there's so many reasons why this movie fails. I learned my lesson being such a curmudgeon all these years about the prequels. I know that the prequels mean a lot to people, and I've grown to have completely changed my mind on those films. I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to be able to change my mind on this. And
hopefully you can come back to life and then your second time around.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. But there are now what I did do watching this is to take these minutes as on their own without the context and the heavy burdens.
Mm-hmm.
They're really cool. Like, they're beautifully shot, like awesomely framed little bits of Star Wars stuff. And if I can, since I don't really care about the story, it was a real treat to go back and watch these 5 minutes for a second time. Especially seeing Palpatine doing his thing, and he's like, wait, how do I do this? I failed. And this is like, it's unnatural. I mean, I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to try to catch lightning in the bottle twice. But Palpatine does. And and I love Adam Driver in these movies, man. He's so good. Like, why, like, again, like when I watch this minute in particular, I'm like, man, did we miss out on Kylo Ren really being a lot cooler than he was? He's cool by default in a lot of ways, but Adam Driver's so good, and he so looks the part, and I just feel this all has been a missed opportunity. And considering how much I enjoy all the non-sequel Disney Star Wars stuff, like thoroughly, like I have zero qualms with other than the anime BS. This is really, this is the lowest point. This is totally like, this is, but there's so many good things to talk about in these 5 minutes. So Why don't we stick to
Let's
that?
get to it.
Let's get to it.
Yeah. Well, so he comes in and basically starts out with, like I said, he's quoting Revenge of the Sith. He's saying like, yeah, the dark side could delete, for some reason I didn't write down the exact quote because I'm like, hey, yeah, that thing with the dark side is,
He goes, you may have heard before, but
Something about the dark side.
yes.
something dark side. Yeah. He should have had that. He should have been like, remember that.
You look nothing like your grandfather. You're tall like him.
He should have kept calling him Anakin the whole time. That would have been a great.
Or like touching his muscles. Like totally like coming up to him and being like, oh, you're strong just like your grandfather.
Your training has served you well.
Yes, your anger has made you very taut. And I think instead you're statuesque like your grandfather, not like your weakling, mopey father. You know, actually, that's the missed opportunity here. When he crawled out, and when these two get together, they should have spent the whole time just like ragging on Luke, because Palpatine.
You know Luke's not his father, right?
Well, yeah, his uncle, whatever the hell he is. Right. But the point is, he comes out. He has the frame of references are all right. Like your grandfather, was my greatest, mark, and then, and then his, your stupid uncle ruined everything. Like, and Luke doesn't have the stature and the muscular, physique and the presence of Anakin and Ben. So
I don't think he would ever admit that Darth Vader was his greatest. I'm sure he would regard Darth Vader as a miserable failure. I don't think he would be like Darth Vader was so cool.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. But at one point,
every apprentice I ever had was a failure.
Like, yeah,
perhaps you could be as great as Dooku. Remember him? He was great.
So now, has it been canon? Great actor he was.
Dracula. Well, I used to call him Dracula.
Did he? Has it ever been revealed in canon that Palpatine has had other apprentices before Dooku?
I've never heard of anything.
Right? Because I would have loved to have been like, your grandfather was great until he threw me down the pit. But did Palpatine have a favorite? He's like, oh, none of you are as good as Darth Bologna. Who was it?
Darth Bologna?
No, Bologna.
Bologna.
Because it always has to be like a twist, it's not the real.
Slightly different. Yeah, I love the idea that he had that, like, it's like that one apprentice who just kind of like, he was amazing, but it was just like his summer internship or something like that, or like he was there for like 6 months, then he got a better gig, and he's always like, oh man, that guy worked out so well. I don't know,
but the Yusin Fong got him. Yeah. No, I think no, there would no. It would be that the person that the apprentice that he really really liked would have met an untimely death, like some kind of like. Yeah, no, it is not, definitely not Maul. It's.
I mean, the one thing about Darth Vader is he's the only one who did manage to, at least temporarily, kill his master, which is the whole Sith thing. So he's got to give him credit for that,
Yeah, I would say, that's why I was saying I think Vader was probably his, the culmination.
That's a sad best. Yeah.
Yes. No. His best was totally like, it's like Magnum TA. If you know the legend of Magnum TA, the great wrestler. So, Pete, do you know who Magnum TA is?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And he was the rival to Hulk Hogan in the other wrestling federation, and he looked like Tom Selleck, instead of the Hulk Hogan like goofy clown look. And he was cool, and he drove a Corvette, and he was he was about to take off, and the whole trajectory of everything would have been different, but he crashed his car into a tree and crippled himself, and that was it. That was the end of Magnum TA.
No!
Yeah, right? So I think that's kind of where like Hogan is the Darth Vader, right? Ultimately, he's your biggest star, but also your worst enemy. And then Magnum TA is the unnamed Sith Lord that we haven't met that crashes his solar sail into a so like he's not dead, but he's so badly damaged that like even the cybernetics wasn't gonna, and it was so long ago that the cybernetics, like by the time he got to Vader, the Sith cybernetics team on Exegol have gotten a lot further. Anyway,
right.
So
I like this metaphor. We can kind of like keep extending it to see who
right, like what
Dooku
late
Dooku's
70s, early 80s wrestling personalities mapped to the Star Wars characters that existed and were available only at that time. Right? So that's a fun game. Let's do that for the next 6 hours. With Alex just sitting there.
A handful of people would like that, and then a lot of people wouldn't, probably. That's the reaction that we usually get anytime we talk about wrestling and all.
Good point. So let's keep going. Other good things.
Well, so basically, Sidious, Palpatine, whatever we want to call him, Sheev.
Sheev. Let's refer to him Sheev.
Sheev is saying, hey, this is great. You're here. Join up with me, and we'll
yeah, you down with Sheev? You're down with me.
And so Kylo Ren is like, well, what could you give me?
Right.
Like,
don't you know who I am?
Well, it ties in with his kind of his whiny brat kind of he's the grumpy child who's like, he's just wants to know what's in it for him. Basically, what could you give me? Because also, he did kind of, he followed this whole path. We were saying last week, Chris, that Sheev is kind of like Leon, the game master here. He set up this whole complicated thing for because Kylo Ren had to go go follow this clue to find the thing to get the Sith Wayfinder. And then
they line up the thing, and it's like faggot beefy, and they got
exactly
it. All right. So talk about that Venn diagram. Anyway, go on.
There you go. And but so now he's finally here, and he was like, "Well, what do I get out of this?" But it does look a weird. Besides the impressive, the tableau of having gotten there and having set up the whole thing. Now he's like, "Well, what could you give me?" Because it's basically like a skeleton on a stick, saying like, right. Oh, in a robe, saying like, oh,
I wish it was. I wish when he was revealed, it was like the Titanic gag from Mr. Show, where there's like like this little body underneath, and he's like, they're evil. I'll teach you. Yeah,
that's one thing. That's one like beef I have with it is like. During this whole conversation, like, I don't have any context as to, you only see Palpatine from like his head up. I don't know if he is indeed a puppet on a stick. I feel like they should show that because it would be an awesome visual if he was like this weird, the fact that there's no long shot of them at all, where you kind of, that to me seems like
the mystery box.
Wait, isn't there when he kind of slides in? You kind of see him kind of like almost like he's attached to the machines by his head and shoulders, and then his body's just kind of like dangling in the wind under it.
It's like the strap-in vests that in Buckaroo Banzai that the lectoids when they're flying, like he's just strapped in, like his limbs are all and he's just being carried around. I mean, it's just it's suggested. He's a shadow.
I don't know if it was in this minute, but we definitely do see him, like when he is kind of approaching, we see him basically dangling from the machine. As you can tell, his body is kind of frail, and when you see him, lit up, obviously his eyes are kind of milked over. He looks a little bit, like he does look. Obviously, you would say like, well, what can you really do for me? You're a weird old man hiding in a blacklight room.
He's trying real hard. So one of the things I think is that he could have pointed out, he's like, look, the intricate level of detail, of gamesmanship of midnight madness that he pulled off in the prequels to get to the end of the prequels, right? And then he's like, so he's 18 years, he's ruling the galaxy, and he's like, in that time, he's like, how do I one-up myself? Aha. And he sets this whole cloning Plagueis thing into motion. Like, the machinations to pull off the prequels pales in comparison to the machinations needed to pull off the sequels. And he should have been like no one can touch these machinations.
No one may touch my machinations.
What can you offer me? Machinations? He serves them up on a plate.
Right. Oh wait, macaroons?
Popovers. Yeah. So
it's a popover. So this is somebody, again, this is all established in that was somebody who like long-term planning, often involving clones, and like thinking 5 steps ahead for backup plans and all that stuff. Like that's Sheev. That's Sheev.
That's just Sheev.
But we were also talking last week about like where there are other contestants, basically. Like we know that Kylo Ren was the one who found the thing and got there first. But were there others that, like, was he, because he broadcast this out to the whole galaxy. So were there other like potential candidates that was like,
not a chance.
That guy's promising.
Nobody cares.
Maybe somebody else could have found it and been like, oh, and didn't make it through the couple of steps to get there. Or will somebody show after this, like 10 minutes later, like a couple of days later, like while they're out doing the rest of the movie, or even after, that would be a good post-credits thing. Maybe then you get like the one kind of weird, like, Sith offshoot who was just like on the same trail, but a little bit later, and he shows up. He's like, excuse me, anybody? I followed a wayfinder to get, is anybody here? Like, and it's just dead silence.
They should,
it's like
that Masquerade book where in the 80s, where it was like, do you remember that? There was like a hardcover children's book that was freakily illustrated, and some dude in England had like a $10,000 golden rabbit with jewels that he hid somewhere on the earth. And this children's book had all the clues to figure it out. And I remember like our elementary school was on the case for like 3 years. And finally, like someone eventually discovered and found it buried on a beach in Scotland. But it was this like weird 70s, like pre-viral thing that like just spread across children's libraries. And I wonder, I'm surprised that you don't remember that. I'm surprised that you don't remember that thing. But
I heard of it, but I don't remember. I never experienced it.
I would totally watch a anthology of people across the galaxy getting that message, and none of them are going to get even close, because like it's just it's such a ridiculous, like, come and find me. But it would be awesome to see like the doofuses that, like all the edgelords in space who like, now's my chance to prove my dominance, and they just constantly fail.
I think last week we said it's a star war.
Yes,
that's what this needs to turn into. The signal goes out, and everybody just like, all these losers from all across the galaxy put their stuff together to try to follow the clues.
That's amazing.
I think it's like Galaxy's Edge, where there's multiple like whoever shows up, they get a different clone of Palpatine. Who, you know what I mean? Like, they have several. They can process a lot of people, and everyone says, "Kill the girl, and you'll get the fleet." And then, you know what I mean? So it's just
right, and then they go on their way. This is just another clue.
Exactly.
He's like the eighth,
like an automated
Kylo Ren's like the
animatronic.
8th person to get to this point. So
like right now, somewhere in the galaxy, Jodo Cast is off on a hunt to find a porcelain elephant.
Is trying to find Ochi Obestoon's ship.
The huge M system.
I'm all for it. These are a lot of hypotheticals.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but then he's like, "Oh, what could you do? What could you do for me?" And Palpatine says everything, and mentally, of course, going back to not somebody who was not in Star Wars but almost was. Gary Oldman in what is that, in The Professional, where he's like, "Get me everyone." It's like, huh? Everyone, and he freaks out. Like, that's what I wanted to hear. Like, what can you do for me? Like, everything. Like, huh? What? Everything.
Everything.
Like,
and then like the proboscis finger comes like, and he's like, everything. Oh God.
Exactly.
But more specifically, he means, I'm going to give you 1,000,000 Star Destroyers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you should have said. I will give you 1,000,000 Star Destroyers. He's like, 1,000,000 Star Destroyers? 1,000,000. I can fly 1,000,000 Star Destroyers. It would. So
this shot of the Star Destroyer, when he goes, I will give you this, and they show all the Star Destroyers breaking out of the ice. And to me, this sequence is specifically this movie, but it's this movie in a nutshell. Like, it's a really striking, dramatic visual.
Yeah.
That is so silly. I think the movie is very silly. It's a very silly movie, and for better or for worse. I mean, yeah, I know. And I'm not saying that's not necessary, but like, it's just so like, it's the questions raised by how did Palpatine build 1,000,000 Star Destroyers? If he's capable of doing this, why does he even need to take over the galaxy? Doesn't he have the infrastructure required to build and man all these Star Destroyers?
In
why
secret?
Are they entombed in ice? Yeah, in secret. Why are they entombed in ice?
Right.
To be fair, once again, his motives are not necessarily the motives at play here. So he doesn't want to take over the galaxy with the Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
That's just what Kylo Ren seems to want. So he's offering that to Kylo Ren to get Kylo Ren to kind of join up, be on his side, so that he can kind of like absorb his Force essence and become whole again, essentially.
But why not
as he tries to do later at the end of the movie? He's just like, oh yeah.
That seems like a really long way to go. I'll build a fleet of 1,000,000 Star Destroyers. Hopefully he'll go for it.
Oh, I've got them. And then he's like, it's not enough. Put them in ice. Put them all in ice. And they're all in ice. And then he's like, yes, and I have them all. And they're all in ice. But they're stormtroopers. Make them red, stormtroopers. Get them out of the ice. Make them red. And that's why for 60 years he's been. Yeah.
Why not just have a bunch of people grab Kylo Ren right now and then take his essence and everything?
Because he's got to be on board with. He's got to join up with him and then also be like, more. Not more powerful, but he's got to basically be like he's got to basically prime him and get him ready to be part of this, which is what the rest of the movie tends.
I need a face, man. I need a beautiful, pretty face to get in front of the camera.
So why not capture him and then prepare him for the thing rather than send him out on a mission to?
Because
you get more bees get more space bees with space honey. 1,000,000
not to say the fleet is totally irrelevant. That also, if Kylo Ren could do the groundwork, lay the groundwork of taking over the Empire, then once Palpatine comes back, he can just walk right into a turnkey operation. Boom. Okay, great. Everything's under the thing. But that's not the primary. That's not Sheev's. Sheev's main goal is to, I want to get Kylo Ren on my side here because he's powerful with the Force. We would turn him all fully to the dark side, get him all going. Because he's been studying, but he's not like a Sith. So he needs to get him all Sithed up a little bit. He's been doing his own little brand of Force whatever with Snoke. And so he's got to get him Sithed up a little bit before the whole thing can happen. So he's like, here, take this fleet, go do some evil stuff, and then we'll meet back up here, and it'll be great.
So wait, he tells him to take the fleet? He doesn't tell him to take the fleet.
This fleet will be yours.
Oh, after he does X, Y, Z.
First off, kill the girl, come back. It's like a classic kind of, fairy tale kind of a setup. All right, you need you need these 3 elements, then you can do this thing, which is going to get you what you want. But in secret, it really gets, it's like Into the Woods, where he's like, okay, go run these tasks and you'll get what you want. But really, the tasks are enabling the witch, or Palpatine in this case, to kind of undo what's been done to him and make him whole. And the actual quest is kind of secondary to the needs of the witch or the Emperor in this case.
Because he wants to.
Because he's got a fleet in an ice. It's all of this. Sure. Well, that doesn't sound like a good time at the movies now, does it?
Like, we're only a year away from when they blew up Hosnian Prime, the capital of the Republic.
Right.
This is only a year later. Why didn't he just send in this fleet a year ago when the galaxy was all in turmoil and stuff?
Because he's not. He didn't have. Kylo Ren, like being Sithy and coming to him and kind of him sucking basically Kylo Ren's Force essence is the prime goal here. So he needs somebody to be super.
Okay, so why Snoke?
Powerful in the Force.
Well, why not send?
He made Snoke. It's too late. He already touched him. It's like, again, going back to Into the Woods. Can't use Rapunzel's hair because the witch already touched it.
But he can't.
He made Snoke. Snoke is just like a copy of his powers, essentially. So he can't. That's not going to help him. But Kylo Ren, boom, he's powerful in the Force from this other branch already. And if we can just gas him up, Sith him up a little bit, perfect for my needs.
So why not have Snoke? Why not have Snoke say, Kylo Ren, I need you to go to the Exegol system where there's 1 million Star Destroyers waiting for us, and then when you go there, you'll talk to this person. Why not? Like, why wouldn't Kylo Ren loved Darth Vader, and so why not? Wouldn't Snoke be say, hey, you know what? I have something better than Darth Vader. I have the Emperor here. You can go see him right now. He's still alive. And then they'll send him there. Like Kylo Ren be like, no, I don't want to do that. It's
Sith Checklist.
I like Darth Vader. I'm not an Emperor fan. I'm a Darth Vader fan.
I like Palpatine. I like Sheev. Anyway, yeah.
But Sith Checklist, to get his Sith forces fully going, what's one thing he's got to do? Kill his master. What? So that's why Snoke was the setup to get him to a certain point. Then he's got to kill Snoke. That moves him on to the next stage of his Sith readiness. And then he's got to totally...
This is all just tedious and boring.
It's all there for me. I'm loving it. So
okay.
You know what?
But I do have a question about these Star Destroyers. Do we think that they were how long ago were they built? Because they do kind of look like. Are they old model Star Destroyers?
He pulled a bunch of
No, they were built recently. They're like the top of the line spaceships.
Because it would be funny if it was like from a while ago, you pulled out like basically a bunch of like cars or like
Pacers,
like Fieros out of the ice, and just being like, look at this mighty fleet, and it's all something that was popular like 30 years ago, and they're like, well,
no,
they are.
To me, it's the fleet has just been finished, and they're ready to come out of ice.
That's the thing. Do we think that they're fully staffed, sitting there under the ice,
clearly
in like ice water, with like people sitting there?
Clearly,
and like,
there's
generations.
Did you watch the same movie?
Have been, yeah.
It looks, yeah.
They've been those red stormtroopers, that staff, that entire population, the multitudes it would take to man that fleet of 1 million Star Destroyers. They've been there, and they've been living and operating under ice.
I mean, it's
under ice.
It took them 20 years to build one Death Star, so it's really a big improvement.
They've come it's like the Death Star was like the invention of interchangeable parts or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because like it's.
Do you think they were ever tempted to make it Death Stars? Like,
everyone's trying to make Death Stars. Yeah, people are making. Death Stars.
Like pulled up
a bunch of Death Stars out of the ice.
Yeah, totally. Big fishing pole.
Right.
That's going to be the next trilogy.
No, so I think they were intentionally, in much the same way the sequels intentionally capitalize on original trilogy nostalgia. That's why he made them classic Star Destroyers, because he knew Kylo Ren would be like, oh, that's a zero BBY era Infinity Star Destroyer.
And the things that
classic.
Now I have to
classic cars,
because I go back and Adam Driver is so good. Kylo Ren, he's like so perfect. He brings so much to this. And, when you first meet him, he's irredeemable. You first meet him, he's like, I don't destroy a planet, I destroy a system. And he kills, he is Hitler times 1,000, right? So then you go and you fast forward to now, and you've got this, he's irredeemable. I don't care how, charming he is. There's nothing he can do that makes up for the atrocities that he's done. what a broken approach to these friggin' movies that J.J. Abrams like saddled them with.
But wait, wasn't that was Snoke and Hux who destroyed the Hosnian system with Starkiller Base? So Kylo Ren was there, but he wasn't like, it wasn't his plan. It wasn't his thing. I mean, granted, he went along with it.
Yeah,
so
dude, you're the Sith.
He's not totally absolved of all.
No, he was completely. He's part
But
of that.
that wasn't.
That's the First Order, and he runs the First.
Hux is the one who like had the big like meeting on the the big rally and was just like, today we the First Order will put out, and then they launched it and they did it. It was all Hux and Snoke's plan.
Look, I don't want to get into politics, but there's I don't buy that. But there's a but the reality is, like, it's just he's so good at casting, but he makes the worst freaking movies, man. And like it sucks, and it really like I would not have mind Palpatine coming back if it made sense. And then I'm like, and like, because watching this minute, I'm like, this is like, I wanted to see this character and this actor do cool stuff. Same shit happens in the next minutes we're gonna talk about. Like, what a fun bunch of guys going through the galaxy. Let's talk about that minute now.
I will say one thing: when Kylo Ren immediately shows up and he pulls out his lightsaber, and
that was awesome. I loved it.
The Emperor's face,
right?
But the Emperor has to know that as soon as he didn't kill him immediately, like that would have been funny. I would have had a lot more respect for it if he immediately just killed Palpatine and the rest of the movie, like it was just about Kylo Ren.
Amazing.
I think that would have been a really great.
That would have been amazing.
Like, really, totally
especially like all getting everybody hyped at celebration about like, oh, Palpatine's back in the next one, and he shows up and he's like, hello,
he kills him
through, and then just gets.
And then the whole movie's like, make 1,000,000 me's, and he clones, and it's like the end of the movie is them versus 1,000 Kylo Rens.
Yeah.
That would have been so much
But
cooler.
anytime if you're a bad guy and you're confronting a good guy and the good guy does not kill you immediately, he's tempted by your offer. Like as soon as he says, well, and then so Palpatine must be inside very happy that as soon as he knows he's got him, as soon as he doesn't kill him, right out of the gate. Like, so good job on you, Sheev. He's good at the psychology of whiny, emo. Angry
if there's one thing I know, it's bratty little boys.
Well, I guess that's all I have for minute number 6.
So wait, so Sheev, the next time us three will talk about Sheev, hopefully Sheev will be in The Acolyte, right? That TV show that's coming out. Isn't that all about the young Sheev?
All I know is the title.
Yeah, I know nothing.
Yeah.
The Young Sheev Chronicles.
I would watch Young Sheev. Sheev.
All right.
You better watch him.
Yeah, watch out. I want John Cameron Mitchell as young Sheev.
It would be and of course what Star Wars, whatever always happens is a movie comes out and then there's ancillary material which like that are patches explaining like how things worked in the movie. So maybe when The Acolyte comes, and I feel like with the Bad Batch they're doing this too, where they're sort of now retconning stuff where Palpatine is planning his return. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it literally is that, like when JJ handed in the storyboards, Kathleen Kennedy like pulled Dave Filoni off the side. She's like, look, just let him do his thing. You can just clean it all up when it's over. Because that's what the Mandalorian, like all this Baby Yoda stuff is leading to, obviously. It's all part of Palpatine's plan. And it's going to be great. I can't wait for the return of Rey and teenage Grogu. They are going to be amazing. It's my grandchildren. That's going to be their Star Wars. Like Dame Rey and Grogu and Chewbacca.
It's almost too bad that they already used the with Groot. They already used the sulky adolescent thing.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's going to have a Grogu who's just playing his Game Boy. They can't do that. That would have been really funny, though.
Yeah, no. Grogu's going to be the Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker character to, like, Rey is going to have, like, that's where this is all headed. Like, Grogu's rough child babyhood, he's going to be all effed up when he's a teenager. He's going to make Kylo and Luke look normal and Han. And so... And she's going to be
They're not going to make baby Yoda into a bad guy. Come on.
No, but he's going to have some.
And we're also not going to see. We're not going to see a teenage baby. No one's going to buy teenage Yoda.
No, I guarantee
toys.
you, this is all headed to
we'll
her, and I wouldn't say teenage. I would say Jake Lloyd age, right? Because it'll be.
I'm sure they're eager to revisit that.
No, I'm telling you, it's all rhymes, man. She's gonna take on the teachings of the surrogate for the children's audience, and that will be Grogu, who we've all gotten to know over the years and have a lot of an affinity for, but we also know had a tough childhood. So we're gonna have some sympathy. It's brilliant. It's all. I'm telling you, this is all. It's beautiful. Making me cry. All right, maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sure. No, don't forget, we got. Oh
yeah, what was it
remember
again?
Your answers, everybody. The final order will soon be ready. It will be blank.
Got it.
It will be blank. And hopefully, if you are listening to this or watching this, remember, if you want to watch these on YouTube, go to StarWarsMinute.com/YouTube. That'll get you there. And also, don't forget to follow us on whatever social media you want. Who knows what's what right now, but we're usually Star Wars Minute or the Star Wars Minute. Sometimes somebody else has Star Wars Minute, and you can easily tell the difference. You go there, it's not this kind of stuff.
Except no substitutes.
Look for Radtke's face. You'll find it only at the official Star Wars Minute channels, which could be Star Wars Minute or the Star Wars Minute. But either way, he's going to come back tomorrow. We're going to come back tomorrow. Hopefully, you'll come back tomorrow for a new episode of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.